Ladies and gentlemen, this is a podcast
for Harley riders by Harley riders.
Actually, this is the MTB Podcast, where we talk about mountain bikes because we are mountain bikers.
Yes.
And in this episode, 98, by the way, we're getting up there.
Wow.
We're getting up there. We're going to talk about our recent trip to Durango, Colorado, a new bike brand that's actually started by a friend of ours, the resurgence of a somewhat older brand, and then, of course, get to listener questions, which range from underrated tire brands and models, coil fork conversions, things to make your bottom bracket not creak or creak less. But before we get to the episode, I wanted to make a quick note about ads. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts lately, and they're so filled with ads, and it's so annoying, and I just promise to not do that with the MTB Podcast. I think here and there we're gonna sneak in a little funny ad that's not even a real business, and because we think it's funny and we know it makes you laugh, or maybe not, we don't really care, it makes us laugh, or we will make a shameless plug of our own ads for Kettle Mountain, which is the apparel brand that we own, or Trail One, the component brand that we're invested in. So you might hear those ads here and there, but they'll be subtle and nice and valuable and relevant. And I'm not going to talk to you about ZipRecruiter or Salesforce or what's another one? Squarespace,
LinkedIn,
Squarespace,
like or Dometics,
Facebook,
a lot of the outdoor ones.
Meta.
Yeah, we're not gonna cover you in ads. So
I literally pull up
that's
a
my
podcast.
ad.
I pull up a podcast and I just hit skip 30 seconds
know,
until I
it's
hear
so
the intro
annoying.
music.
You know what?
Wow.
I don't want anyone to ever skip the intro of the MTB Podcast because they're gonna miss funny intros and like the ones you just heard, which you may or may not have thought was funny, but we did, especially Jared.
Never ridden Harley before in my life.
I don't think I've ridden Harley before either. Well, let's jump into where we didn't ride Harleys, but yet we rode mountain bikes, which was Durango. So this was the second trip this year that we did with Chasing Epic Mountain Bike Tours. It was epic as promised. It was in Durango, Colorado, which wasn't quite as high in elevation as Breckenridge, right? It was slightly less.
Pretty close.
Well,
pretty close.
Durango town is less.
Right.
But we were staying in Purgatory, which is actually pretty
30
close.
minutes north.
Yeah,
where the bike park is.
Basically 9,000
We're
feet,
sleeping
right?
at 9,000, 8,900, and
Yeah, it was up there.
Riding up at 12,000 pretty frequently, and
enough to screw
Rocky
my
Mountains,
sleep cycle
baby.
up.
the Rocky
San
Mountains.
Juan Mountains.
San Juans.
Yes.
Is that part of the Rocky Mountains?
That's a great question.
No,
Maybe
I
one of
don't
our
know.
Colorado
Geographically,
listeners
the San
could,
Juan Mountains might still be connected to and part of the Rocky Mountains as the greater mountain range.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know if you're listening from Colorado and you know that information, just let us know.
Educate
Podcast
us.
at worldwidecycling.com.
Yeah, we learn a lot from people who watch our YouTube videos and listen to our podcasts. Recently, we had a video about the top enduro trail front tires, and we mentioned that we don't really know how to pronounce Schwalbe.
Yeah.
Well, we know how to pronounce it because in the U.S., everyone calls it Schwalbe. It's kind of how it's spelled and the way you'd read it in American English. Yeah. But we mentioned that, we don't know how to say the correct way of it because it's a German brand, right?
I think so.
And a German guy messaged us on Instagram, and he told us it's Schwalbe.
Schwalbe.
Schwab. Yeah, we still can't say it right.
I don't know if Americans can actually properly pronunciate that. Pronunciate.
Yeah, pronunciate.
Enunciate.
Yeah,
I just combined two words.
It was a challenging one, but we learned a lot of stuff. So let us know about that Rocky Mountains, San Juan Mountains question.
Yeah,
Durango I loved it. I think that was it Graysill was the trail that we rode.
Yeah.
Graysill or Graysill Creek, something like that. That was my highlight. I think that trail was so well built. The corners were amazing. It was kind of fast and flowy at the top with these awesome corners, good line of sight, which is perfect for someone riding it for the first time that didn't know it, and then gotten a little bit more techy towards the bottom. That was a good trail. There were some standouts. We rode some sections of the Colorado Trail. I don't know, what was your guys' highlights from the trip?
Gosh, that Engine Creek Trail was another one of my favorites.
You like that one?
I liked that one. Yeah, it definitely sketchy in parts, but I guess those are the ones that I tend to enjoy. It's like you just got out of that and you're like, wow, that was pretty technical.
Felt like
fun.
raw, rugged, original mountain biking, sort of just riding down sketchy goat trails / rain ruts type of stuff. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
There was a section on the Colorado Trail going to Graysill that was like, I don't know, a 2-minute downhill. That was super fun.
That was cool, like around the White Creek and the other one.
Leading up to White Creek.
Yeah, that was rad.
Yeah, riding in Colorado is amazing. There's just such there's so much elevation, and there's so much cool geological stuff going on. Those
Yeah.
creeks that we saw, that one creek was orange and had orange rocks, and then 2 hours later we saw this creek that it looked
White.
powder white. The
Yeah.
water, the rocks. I mean, it's just so cool. It's such a beautiful place to ride bikes, and the trails are so well built and well maintained. And yeah, Durango didn't disappoint. It seemed like a really fun place to, if you're going to take a mountain bike trip, that was a heck of a place.
Yeah.
Definitely different sort of vibe and setup in terms of the local trails compared to Breckenridge,
Yeah.
in my opinion. Breckenridge had, I don't know, there was a lot of these sort of flow jump trails in Breckenridge, the sort of local trails, which I loved. I
Yeah.
thought was awesome, but
Me too.
it totally depends on what you like. Durango had a different flavor, a little bit more raw and rugged than that stuff. So, I don't know, how do you compare them?
I think what he says is pretty accurate. I mean, once you got out of, because you didn't ride a whole lot of the deep stuff from Breckenridge.
Yeah, true. I don't have a huge sampling. Well, we don't have a huge sampling of Durango either.
Yeah, exactly.
These places have so many trails.
know.
You need to spend weeks there to.
I feel
really
like
get
we
to know.
only rode the deep out backcountry stuff in Durango, or in Breckenridge, kind of all three of us rode a lot more like the kind of stuff from town.
Yeah.
The stuff I rode on the during the Breck Epic, some of that stuff was pretty similar. Like you're out there, you're in the middle of Colorado Trail somewhere, and like it's just raw and single track, a couple inches wide on the trail and stuff. So, I don't know. It's hard to say without having like a proper sampling of all the trails.
It's true. Yeah. Either way, both of those towns, Breckenridge and Durango, we've hit those this summer, and Sun Valley, Idaho. That's another town as well, and all those places, such amazing places to take a mountain bike vacation that offer a lot of great trails and just good infrastructure, cool towns, cool history, a lot of good sights to see. So
Good activities.
Good activities.
Yeah.
More room for activities.
That's right.
That is right.
Yeah.
Moving on. Crestline bikes. Have we mentioned Crestline on the podcast before?
I believe so.
Don't think we have it all.
Yeah, so a longtime friend of ours and sponsored rider, ambassador. What do we call Troy these days? I don't know.
Shop rider,
Shop rider?
friend of the shop.
Yeah. Friend of ours. His name's Troyden. He's a South African dude. He's an incredible mountain bike rider, and him and a couple of his friends are starting a bike brand, Crestline Bikes. And I think, how much should we disclose? Does it matter? He doesn't. Troyden, who cares?
I'm going to disclose what I want to disclose.
Yeah, go ahead.
So they just kind of set eyes to the world this past week. They released their RS 205 or 205. It's a downhill frame with a virtual high pivot VPP linkage system. That's a lot of abbreviations.
Right.
Yeah, that is.
Very technical.
Essentially, it's a spin on VPP, but they move the virtual pivot placement a little bit higher because there's dual rotating links. So it's not a actual high pivot, it's a virtual high pivot. And by doing so, they've been able to create a more rearward axle path than typical VPP while still having a lot of support and characteristics that you want in a suspension platform. So that's pretty cool to see. There's a collaboration with Cascade Components. They did a lot of the kinematics for them and machining all the links and the dropouts. The downhill bike was kind of like a fun project for them because their real goal is to make awesome kind of gravity-oriented e-bikes.
Yeah, that was the original goal, right? I mean, it's they have a YouTube channel called Crestline MTB, and for a minute there, about a year ago, they pumped out 4 videos, and they kind of gave some insight into the bike that they were building, the prototypes they had, and this was a longer travel e-bike. And we're asking viewers, hey, what do you think of this thing? What do you want? I'm trying to just make an amazing long travel e-bike. And it takes a long time to develop and design a really high-end premium sort of competitive bike in those categories, be it downhill or be it long travel e-bike. And they're getting after it. I don't know why they kind of gave up on the YouTube thing for a little bit, but we'll see when they come back with it. I mean, they've just been heads down making the products. So once they're dialed in, I think we'll hear a lot more from them.
Yeah, I think it came down to actually getting stuff ordered and POs placed and kind of getting everything going, and they kind of pushed the YouTube to the side for a bit.
Yeah.
But the e-bikes are on their way. Early 2023 is when they're expected. So
Nice.
Yeah, they look amazing. I'm super impressed. I think Troy's doing a fantastic job, and even just that downhill bike. And Jared, you made that reel that we posted on Instagram of that thing.
That
And
custom build, yeah.
ooh, that looked good.
Unreal. That red is just like
Yeah, it was
insane.
that sort of candy apple red.
Yeah, it's
right?
like something like that. Gosh.
yeah, that was a one-off that Technar painted.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
custom
like a
painted, custom build.
Crimson, blood, red. I don't even know, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's a sick build.
Yeah, so something to keep an eye on. I mean, I just love. I mean, one of the things I love about the bike industry, which I've said plenty of times, is that there's just a thriving amount of small boutique brands that are able to sort of make competitive bikes that go par to par with the best ones out there, and that doesn't happen in technology and automotive.
Yeah,
It's much more of a thing that's kind of unique to the bike industry, which is really cool to see brands like this just come out of nowhere and make incredible products. So
Yeah.
I have high hopes for Crestline, and I have faith in Jordan to do some pretty impressive stuff. And seeing that downhill bike was rad. So
Yeah, I think
you rode that bike a lot, right? In Whistler just recently, Liam?
Yeah, I rode it twice here in SoCal, and then I actually rode it for like 3 whole park days up in Whistler. All of it at the time was built up as a full downhill bike. It's really, really good, like impressively good right off the bat. Gets you up to, your confidence level right away. Actually, I tried to pull up on this like kind of natural trail gap, and I cased the crap out of it. But my buddy Corey was right kind of behind me / next to me, and he was like, dude, you cased that so bad, but like the way the wheel just ate it up and moved out of the way was amazing. He was like, to see that thing work was awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, it worked really well, and I will say it's a race bike. Like it wants to go fast. It loves the speed. It's super stable. So yeah,
It's funny because some of the best ways to get to know any bike, especially the more travel they have, is by making mistakes. It's by those times where you pick a horrible line in a rock garden and you drop your front wheel into a hole and you think in your head, I'm done, I'm going over the bars, and then all of a sudden you don't.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you're going to credit that to the size of the wheel, the fork, the head angle, and you're just shocked. And sometimes especially when you're riding a new bike, you're 100% certain if I'd done that on my last bike, I'd have gone over the bars. And that's a fun thing to kind of experience. And same thing with casing stuff or overshooting stuff. When you really bottom out the suspension and push it to its limits because you made a mistake, that's where a good bike can save you and where you can kind of really feel like, wow, I love this thing because it saved my ass on this situation.
yeah,
Totally.
There's definitely
Yeah.
a couple times that 40 up front saved me. That Fox 40.
Yeah.
We were riding some super steep tech trails that I'd never ridden before, trying to follow Troyden and some local kids as well, and they're just flying. I'm over my head. I don't know what I'm doing, and yeah, 40
Yeah.
saved me. Bike jumped super well. I hit pretty much all the jump lines at Whistler on it, so
Wow.
The thrill of mountain biking.
yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, that's cool. So keep an eye out for Crestline. We'll definitely be talking more about them because we love to see bike projects like this come to life, which is really cool. Speaking of things coming to life or coming back to life, a resurgence.
Oh.
So yeah, I wanted to mention Canfield. So Canfield never fully disappeared, but Canfield bikes, man, what a storied brand. So 2 brothers that were both incredible riders, incredible bike designers and suspension designers. And they made amazing downhill bikes, trail bikes, and then they kind of, I don't know what you took a small hiatus here and there, and now they're slowly but surely coming back quite strong with some really cool stuff. And their suspension platform, CBF, is actually what Revel Bikes uses. So Revel licensed the CBF suspension platform from Canfield, and it just works amazing. We made a whole video all about it, and obviously a lot of what you can attribute Revel's bikes and how they perform is to that suspension formula. And Canfield's bikes are at present all aluminum and very well priced and in a competitive range that I think fills a really unique niche where it's at a price point that's aluminum, and if you want an aluminum bike maybe under $5,000-$6,000 for sure, you can get something that has kind of a world-class suspension platform to it for that price point, which is pretty cool and pretty rare.
Yeah, and good components.
Yeah, with good components. So it's cool to see Canfield slowly but surely coming back on the map with this. And I'm not sure if they'll ever go carbon or what they have planned next, but in terms of the way the bikes are working and riding right now and looking, it's a rare bike, and it's something that you have out on the trail, and people go, "Whoa, what is that?"
Yeah,
and it works good, and it's cool. So
And
I'm
they
excited to see them come back.
They still have quite the following.
They do, yeah, they definitely do. Yeah, they've always had sort of a cult following of people that know and understand that suspension platform and that brand and how well those bikes have always worked. That are, basically, have always followed those guys and paid attention to their every move. So it's cool to see them come back. I love that. I love seeing brands. They all just kind of they ebb and flow in terms of what they make and design and how their business operates. And Canfield is on the ups right now, which is really cool to see. So another thing to keep an eye on in terms of bikes. Would you ever ride? Oh, that's a listener question.
That is a listener question.
Oh, we better not answer that.
Don't want to spoil that.
We don't want to spoil this alloy bike question.
Gosh.
But we will jump into listener questions.
Oh.
So, without further
Diving
ado,
right in.
diving right in. Go ahead, Jared. Read the first one.
All right, I will read the first one. What are your opinions on coil forks such as the Marzocchi Bomber and conversions like the Vorsprung Smashpot and Push ACS3? Do they provide better ride characteristics to justify the weight? Are they only worth it on certain bikes or terrain? Kind of alluding to my answer there in that second question, but Jeff, what are your thoughts on a coil fork on your mountain bike?
Well,
I know you're a weight weenie. Let's just preface it with that.
well, 3 years ago, when that ACS3 kit, which is that coil conversion kit that Push Industries makes, came out, I did ride it and review it, and it's on YouTube.
Excuse me.
How about that?
but
You installed a part on your bike that weighed more than the previous one.
I think you borrowed my bike for 2 weeks.
There you go. That's what he did.
I didn't install it on my own bike. I recall riding Liam's bike extensively for the testing purposes.
Well, all right then.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it does boil down to a matter of opinion. And something I actually want to do on this podcast is so much of the bike industry and really anything in life boils back down to preference, personal situation, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
However, I still don't want to neglect that we should tell people honestly what we chose.
Right.
So for me, I will start with, yes, it totally, it's preference, blah, 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 depends on what you want. I rode that one. I've also rode the, some of the Marzocchi forks that have coils in them, and I do think they work super well.
Yeah.
And it is impressive how they just do have they hit different, as the kids are saying.
Oh,
that
is awfully new of you to say.
They have a different level of performance and feel, absolutely. And is it good? I think so. I do like it. But in my opinion, I don't think that the weight sacrifice is worth it. It depends on the bike.
Yeah.
But man, I don't know. I still just don't think that, for me personally, I think they work better. But I don't think that the weight sacrifice is worth it.
Yeah.
But it's funny, right? Because when you're talking about something like the ACS3, that's where you take your premium level air fork and make it coil.
Yeah.
Coil-esque, right? So that, I don't know. I wouldn't pay money to upgrade my premium level air fork to coil just for the feel.
Right.
I know obviously a lot of people do, and some people would, but I wouldn't. However, if I was in the budget for a $500 fork, would I choose a coil fork? Absolutely, yeah. Because I mean, you're just
Marzocchi one,
or like 700. Yeah. I think that's how much they are.
Because you have coil. less level of pickiness when your budget's not at the highest level. So I don't know. So for me, I'm sticking with air.
Yeah,
but, what do you think?
Well, I have actually ridden all of these: the ACS3, the Vorsprung Smashpot, and the Marzocchi Bomber coil. I mean, personally, I think it's definitely an application-driven decision where, definitely a more gravity-oriented bike would, benefit more from that kind of, conversion, I guess. Like, I love the feel of the weight and the compliance of a coil fork on a gravity bike. Like, I had the Bomber coil on my SB165 when I first built it up, and it was like, wow. Like, the weight, not only the weight of the fork, like the additional weight over an air fork, but also the added grip and compliance of the coil. You just get so much front wheel traction, and it feels great. And it just trucks over stuff. But with that said, do I want to pedal it around all day? No. So it's like, yeah, it feels great on a more gravity, oriented application, but like on a all mountain bike, where you're climbing, you're earning your turns. I probably wouldn't. I would just stick with air, like a 38 or a Zeb. If I was gonna build a bike, where I was gonna climb to all of the top of my, amazing descents, I probably wouldn't do that. But if I was gonna park bike that thing all day, I mean, yeah, I would probably go Coil, I guess.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense. It is funny because I think I mentioned in that ACS3 review is that air forks have just been constantly trying to evolve and innovate their internals to basically imitate coil forks. Like that's the purpose of air fork innovation, is to behave like coil forks.
Yeah, and they've gotten so good.
They're pretty close to it now, arguably indistinguishable. But
yeah, they've gotten really good. But yeah, I mean,
yeah. What do you think, Wills?
I've had 2 bikes that are full coil, and they were pretty awesome. I think they're really good for like fast, chattery trails, like kind of desert style trails. Really good for that. We have one over here called Suicide. There's not really any big G outs on it, and then coil feels awesome. Just smash down that thing.
Yeah.
For myself, I always end up going back to air. I've built up so many bikes with a coil in the rear to start, and I can just never find the right balance between spring rate and bottom out resistance that I want, and I just always end up going back to an air shock. Kind of same with the fork. So I think it's rider style, terrain, kind of based on what you want. Like if you're riding Arizona a lot, it'd probably be awesome riding a lot of that chunk in that desert out there.
Yeah. I feel like it'd probably also be good on like Rocky and Rudy type stuff.
Yeah, it probably would be like really Rudy.
We just don't have any roots here.
Really Rudy kind of technical stuff.
Yeah.
The coil would be good. It also would be good if you happen to ride really cold temperatures and then really hot temperatures as well. Like, winter riding on air doesn't feel that awesome at the start, and it heats up. So
it's true. Yeah, there's less sort of variance when the temperature changes with coil. Yeah.
So again, terrain, area specific.
Riding your average loop.
That being said, I probably would just buy an air fork.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah, that's a tough one. There's a lot of different ways you can go with that. Just
a lot of ways you can slice the pie.
Oh.
Thought you would like that.
Never even heard that.
Just love food comments.
I love a food comment. Yeah. A lot of ways you can slice the pie on that one.
Speaking of food, the next question is, which of all the dropper posts that have violated your butt cheeks has been the longest lasting?
Speaking of food, you nasty, nasty boy.
I think, okay, here's my take on dropper posts. I think it took dropper posts, well, for starters, it was an amazing innovation in the bike industry that completely changed the way you ride your mountain bike.
So were rear shocks, which also took a long time to get consistent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so the dropper post, like rear shocks, took several years to become reliable, high-quality pieces of machinery that you had faith in their performance.
Yeah.
Took a long time. But I think as of late, they're pretty reliable. I mean, almost, let's talk all premium brands, right? 1UP, Fox, KS, Raceface, who
RockShox?
RockShox. Yeah,
RockShox,
of course.
Reverb.
Yeah, even Reverb. Yeah.
One of my favorites, Bike Yoke.
Oh, yeah, Bike Yoke.
Bike Yoke.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're all good and reliable these days. It's really hard to say one is more reliable than the other. Whereas if you asked me that question 5 years ago, let alone 8 years ago, it'd have been a completely different answer. They were all over the place.
Yeah.
One brand had one model that worked better than everyone else's, and other ones had horrendous warranty.
KS Carbon dropper post.
Yeah, well, I have a KS Carbon dropper on my Revel Ranger, which is my lightweight.
Both of them, right? You've had 2 of those.
I've had 2.
So 6 of them.
Yeah. Well, that's the lightest dropper there is.
And?
For a 150 dropper, and they're flawless. I've never had a problem with either. I had the 127.2 KS dropper that had an unnecessary amount of play in it.
It had play.
But that was a 27.2 dropper on my gravel bike, so
they have
just had play. Still went up and down just fine.
Needed service. around the average service interval.
I mean, that's fair.
But yeah, you
That's
can't
fair.
say something doesn't work well if you're not going to maintain it
Exactly.
properly
Yeah.
and follow the
Yeah,
instructions.
that's totally
like
fair.
most people, oh, this sucks. It doesn't work anymore. Well,
Yeah.
dude, you rode it for 16 months and it has a 12-month interval. So
Yeah. Makes sense. It's like driving a car and not
but-
changing the oil and be like, oh, what did
Exactly.
blow up?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think personally my favorite one-up components, super solid. P&W's coming out with some solid ones. Bike yoke is really solid, and then I've had absolutely no issues with 3 reverb axis posts.
Yeah.
I could buy 3 or 4 maybe one-ups for my one reverb axis.
They're 2 to 3 times the price of
But-
every dropper, but
I
they're
haven't-
provably extremely reliable.
Yeah,
and
I haven't
it's
had
so
any issues.
convenient to
Yeah.
switch them from bike to bike.
It is.
Yeah, I would agree. Honestly, my reverb axis, I don't have it anymore. But yeah, that was one of my favorites, and just the actuation and like just how easy it would top out. Like, you know, some dropper posts you have to like, you know, hit it with your butt to get it to go down and go back up, and like, I don't know. I just think that reverb axis was like definitely one of the most solid posts I've ever had.
Do you feel like you went down a notch now that your dropper post has a cable again?
I mean, I don't feel like I went down a notch, but like
Wait, what dropper are you
maybe I
running now?
did the Fox transfer, which is
yeah.
like, yeah, I mean, probably the next best one, but
Yeah.
You did it for aesthetic reasons.
yeah.
match
And
the
well,
Fox
honestly,
Yashima.
I didn't want to like pull out a perfectly good post just to swap it with that one and mess with all the cables and stuff. And then like when I sold the bike, have to redo all that. I'm like, no, I'm just gonna leave it and run the Fox. And it works. Yeah, I like the Fox.
They work good. Yeah, I mean, they're pretty reliable pieces of machinery these days, especially if you maintain them at the correct service intervals.
Gotta service it.
Yeah,
Like,
I've had that Crank Brothers Highline post, and I don't think we've ever serviced that one.
yeah.
On my Rascal.
Those
and
ones are
Yeah.
pretty
flawless.
durable.
I was gonna say
Forgot to
also
mention Crank Brothers.
Yeah, that's
P&W Rainier or whatever it is, like it's pretty much the same thing as that Crank Brothers one. Mm-hmm. It's also bulletproof.
Reliable and tried and true.
Yeah.
Yeah, dropper posts work good now. I mean, that was I would never have said that 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Almost all of them work really well. They've come a long way, which is really cool.
And here we are.
And here we are. Things that still aren't perfect. Tires. Flat tires.
That's right.
Although, I don't think anyone of our whole group, which was about 12 people, got any flat tire or any mechanicals in Durango, huh?
Well,
Not really.
except for mine, but
That was
did you
self-inflicted.
do?
You forgot to charge his Axis battery.
No. Oh, yeah.
I was talking about the wheel.
Oh, that was also
Yeah,
self-inflicted.
I cracked a wheel.
In Durango?
Yeah.
But it didn't lose any air, so
It
it's
didn't
not
lose
really
any
even
air.
mechanical.
When was that? I didn't even hear
It
about
was
it.
on the last day, I think.
He didn't even find out about until he was back in California
Yeah.
building his bike back.
Well, is
I
it
was putting-
technically a mechanical if you didn't
That's-
notice on
yeah.
the ride and it still worked? Your bike worked perfectly fine the whole way through?
Mechanically, it's not sound anymore, so I think it's a mechanical. But I'm not
doesn't
going to ride it
affect the
again.
ride.
I mean, but yeah,
I
the
don't
wheels,
keep riding it.
wheels cracked. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to find out what happens next.
I mean, everyone's-
But yeah.
yeah, brakes.
Yeah. But
Tires.
Speaking of tires,
Underrated tire brands that we've heard and seen good things about. Well, I have a couple comments on that one. Well, for starters, we did just make that pretty extensive YouTube video
Yeah.
where we interviewed a whole bunch of people in the California shop, and we talked about and laid out all of the most popular selling and most important tires in the mountain bike space in terms of front tires for your trail and enduro bike. So if you really want to dig into tires, check out that YouTube video.
front tires specifically.
But
Front tires specifically.
almost-
We gave honorable mentions in there.
Yeah, I was gonna say almost everyone said Maxxis. So it's
Yeah,
not
I
underrated.
know. Yeah, it was, and you know what? Let's pull up that poll that you did on YouTube.
Pull it
on
up,
the
Jamie.
On the YouTube community, and it was a pretty big Maxxis win. But
Yeah.
underrated tire brands. So in terms of underrated, Maxxis isn't underrated. They're highly rated and highly known. So let's
Yeah.
talk about underrated. Two come to mind for me. One of them is Delium, which is trying to make a very premium Maxxis level quality tires that are half the price.
Yep,
And they're damn impressive.
they are,
For that,
especially
price
for
point.
half the price.
Yeah, DELIUM, Delium Tires, new brand, doing amazing things. Very impressed with them. We talked about them on the podcast before.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
And then Continental, which is not a new brand by any means. It's a super old brand, but They've made some really good new tires recently with ridiculous names. I think we talked about that recently too on the podcast.
Prescription drug names.
The prescription drugs names:
Yeah.
Cryptotol, Xylitol,
Xylitol,
Wanatol, Zyrtec.
Are you lacking grip on your bike? Take Xylitol.
Let's make an ad for that.
Yeah,
hilarious
it'd be
ad.
hilarious. Why not?
We're doing that. If somebody does that first, we know you stole our idea from this
Right.
podcast.
Speaking of which, do you want to hear the results
Yeah.
from the poll? Given 3 options, Maxxis, WTB, or Continental, which tire would you run on your bike? Continental 15%, WTB 8%, Maxxis 77%.
And how many replies though?
That's a good question.
3.
17,000 votes.
17,000 votes.
Wow.
Wow.
That's
and
a lot of
Maxxis got
votes.
77%.
Yeah. So
I mean, that's crazy.
I would call that statistically significant data, my friend. 17,000 people, and over 75% of them said Maxxis.
That's a lot of votes.
I mean, you only gave 3 brands, right? You didn't give
Yeah, I only gave 3
Schwab,
brands, but I
Schwab.
mean,
Schwable.
people also
Schwab.
answered a lot in the
Schwab.
comments. Like, obviously, I mean, how many brands can you put, right? People
Yeah,
are like,
yeah,
"Oh,
yeah.
you didn't say V Tire Co." Well, I'm sorry, dude, I didn't.
Yeah.
Can you get those?
Yeah,
I don't even know if you get V Tire.
Yeah, I think Continental's crushing it. I've been riding the set for a couple months now.
They look great.
Yeah.
I would love to try those.
Which ones are you using?
I have a Cryptotol front in the front, and then because the Cryptotol has a front and a rear designation, so I have the Cryptotol front in the front, and then the Xylitol in the rear, which is very similar tread pattern, but faster rolling, more ramped knobs. So
What's a worse product name? Cryptotol and Xylitol or Dynamic Island?
Cryptotol and Xylitol, dude.
you know,
Like Dynamic Island at least alludes to the
Hopefully-
features.
but-
At
but
least,
I-
like,
Tech nerds will,
I thought the
will-
Dynamic Island was gonna be some standout feature. It barely does anything.
It doesn't do anything.
Doesn't do anything.
And it sits lower than the notch.
It tells me that I'm listening to Spotify, and the photo of my album cover is so small. I think there's something on my phone.
Yeah.
I try to
It's like a
swipe it out of the way.
Spec. This is the new Dynamic Island on the iPhone 14. For those of you that aren't up on your tech device, it's the recent.
And we've
iPhone
transitioned to
launch.
the Tech Podcast with
Worldwide
Jeff Haley
Tech
and
podcast
Ask
for
Liam.
tech people.
Yeah. That's Jeff's new podcast that he hasn't revealed yet.
Man, I should do that. It would
You,
be
sh-
fun.
you should, and I'll just be like the noob that doesn't know anything.
We'll both be the noobs that don't know anything. We'll see the same people, but Jeff will talk about tech.
You
I
could
know,
have a YouTube
I know
channel
just
called
enough to
Tech
get me in
Nerd
trouble.
explains things to people who aren't tech nerds and don't care to be tech nerds and don't care what he's telling them. That'd be the name of the YouTube channel. I don't know if we have that many characters available, but we'll see.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Speaking of tires,
Continental, Delium.
Continental,
you
Delium.
got?
I mean, WTB. I don't know if they're
Underrated.
underrated, but like I love
They do
WTB
have good
tires
stuff,
personally. Vigilante and Trail Boss is one of the best combos out there.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, those do work good.
Yeah. Aside from that, I don't know. People like Kenda. I mean,
Kenda's kind of making a resurgence.
honestly, I saw a couple of them back there too, and I was like, man, I kind of want to try that Pinner
Yeah.
Pro or whatever. And
Yeah, the Pinner Pro.
Yeah, it looks
Kenda's
good.
making a resurgence for sure.
yeah,
You know what's also very underrated? Terravale. So that was
Oh, yeah.
sort of an
Yeah,
honorable
definitely.
mention. Terravale is a small brand and much more well known for their gravel tires. Probably one of the bigger gravel tire brands.
I think so.
At least
You
like
know, they really
to the
jumped onto
masses,
that
yeah.
Yeah.
niche big time. If you're a
Yep.
big gravel rider, you definitely have heard of Terravale. But they actually have some really good mountain bike tires, trail
Yeah.
/ enduro
Yeah,
stuff
the
too. that
Kessel
people
and
Kessel,
the
look at.
Warwick.
Yeah, and
Yep.
there's like a Hawaiian named one too, isn't there? Oh no,
Oh,
it's
the
the
A-line. It's the
A-line.
A-line,
I thought
bruh.
A-line, yeah.
Yeah.
A-line.
E-H line or something.
Yeah.
A-line.
It's the
Not
A-line, man.
Canadian. A-line.
hey,
Yeah.
man.
Tires, man.
No comment. on
Everybody
that.
loves talking about tires.
Yeah, never get tired of it.
All right, Jared.
All right.
If you poop in your chamois, does it add extra padding?
Gosh. I'm gonna go
I'm
out
gonna
on
ask that.
Yeah, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that if you poop in your chamois, you've got bigger problems than padding.
Have you ever pooped in your chamois? Even during your triathlon stint?
Never on a ride.
What?
I mean,
So that's a yes.
no, never on a ride, but yeah, one time, like, I'm not gonna go in details, but yeah, maybe I pooped in the chamois. It was before a ride.
Well,
Or no, it was after a ride.
let Jared know. Let Jared know on his personal Instagram at Jared Bierman if you would prefer the details of his pooping story in
guys
the
don't-
next podcast.
Jeff, I heard that one time.
Have you ever peed your chamois?
I don't think I've done either.
No, that's even worse, man. I'm just kidding. That's not worse. But I heard Jeff that one time you pooped in your chamois and like you rode with it for hours and you were just like loving it.
I never did that. This is misinformation.
Rumor thread 2023.
Does it add extra padding?
God.
Some of the questions. That was a good one though.
Yeah, that's gross. That's pretty gross.
Speaking of people who poop their chamois, the guy who asked this next question probably has. I can say that because he's a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
I'm not being mean, I promise. The question is, will Bierman and Liam come ride the Glen Park Enduro with the B team?
I've never even heard of the Glen Park Enduro.
Never heard of Glen Park.
How am I going to get there?
Never heard of the B team.
Yeah, you've heard of the B team.
I know, I'm just giving
I'm
him
definitely
a
a
hard
C team rider. I'm not qualified.
For context, the Glen Park Enduro, I don't know what that is either, but I'm assuming it's just one of those enduro races that's out east.
That's
that
pretty local.
that the B team is racing. So the B team, a friend of mine decided he'd put together an amateur enduro race team, and it's got, I think, 10 or 12 riders on it. And he's actually done I'm pretty impressed with these. He's done a lot with it. I'm not so impressed with his Instagram. It's a little sloppy.
Yeah. Emphasis on amateur.
He has emphasis on amateur. The race results, the social media presence, they're all like that. But you know what they do is they go to the races and they have an amazing time and they exemplify having fun on mountain bikes.
That's true.
Which to me, that's what sold me. And I said, all right, we'll sponsor your team. So I agreed to sponsor him with Worldwide Cyclery, with Kettle, and with Trail One. So they have these. We made them these B team shirts, which actually Liam, you designed, right?
Yeah, I did.
God.
Yeah, Liam designed the shirts. They look
Nice
good,
job,
man. And these guys
Liam.
wear these Kettle shirts that we custom printed for them that have the B Team logo on them and the WC Kettle and Trail One logo on the back. And then it also has a quote on there. That's, what does it say? The FBI's most wanted enduro race.
Yeah.
So, I definitely, one of the things as Worldwide Cyclery has sort of evolved over the years, over the last decade, I want to support people who have an amazing fun time on mountain bikes and racing mountain bikes, whether it's as amateur as the B team and their team exemplifying fun at the local races, or it's as professional and well done and impressive as, Nico Mullally creating his own bike and racing it at World Cup level downhill races on a world stage. Very different situation there, but both exemplifying having fun and doing cool stuff on mountain bikes and worth supporting. Just like how we support NICA so much, the National Intergalactic Cycling Association.
Intergalactic.
That's
right.
Soon to be intergalactic.
We should make a
Thanks,
a
Elon.
Beastie Boys NICA YouTube video.
That's a good idea.
Intergalactic.
It's not a bad idea.
That's right.
Well, Matt, the manager, is he a team manager? Is that his title? Team manager of the B team. I don't think Bierman or Liam are coming out for the Glen Park. I'm sorry.
Sorry, man.
But I did promise you could put an ad in the MTB podcast for the B team. I don't know what the ad's going to be about because I don't know what you're selling, but I haven't heard the ad yet because it's actually not even created, but he's going to create it after we record this. But while you're going to hear it right now. Ready? Here it is.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
Hey yo, what's good? It's Stunner number 1, factory rider for the B team. And wanted to take a second here at the end of the season and give a shout out and say thank you to all the great people at Worldwide Cyclery, especially in Lancaster, Kettle Mountain, and of course Trail One for the love and the support that they've shown our team this year. And ask all the millions of listeners to follow us at B_team_MTB. B team. That's what's up.
And now, back to the show.
And we are back, and I've got a fresh bubbly
Wow.
from Michael Bublé.
Bublé. Speaking of things you would consume, what is the
Listener
best?
question.
Yeah, what's the best type of Cheez It?
What a weird listener question of all the things you could ask
I
us.
think
It's
I've
random.
only ever had original, regular, and it's probably
The white cheddar ones.
I've never had those.
You've never had white cheddar.
I don't eat Cheez Its.
Huh.
That's where I was getting. You interrupted me.
But what
I don't
about
think
when
I've
you
had
were
a Cheez It. Still regular. They didn't have flavors when I was a kid.
Oh, they've had white cheddar.
They've had
for a
white
long
cheddar,
time.
yeah. Well, the best type is obviously white cheddar.
I just remember having white cheddar as a kid, and it cakes your fingers.
Yeah.
Like
in the
Cheetos?
cheddar. Yeah, but a totally different flavor.
Yeah.
And then
I assumed.
you just scrape off the white cheddar with your teeth on your fingers. And
Yeah.
it's a gross visual, maybe,
Yeah.
depending on how you
I was
feel
a hot
about
Cheeto
That's,
kid.
finger licking.
that's exactly what you do with that
Yeah.
residual cheddar on your fingers.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that kind of wraps that one up, huh? White cheddar is the best. It's unanimous.
Sounds like personal preference.
Well, you didn't really say.
I don't think Jeff eats Cheez Its either.
I haven't eaten Cheez Its in a solid 10 years or more.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have no idea when I ate Cheez Its.
It's definitely
when I was a little
not
kid.
the ones that they accidentally burned and tried to write off as a well-done Cheez-It. If you're in that camp,
Who makes Cheez Its? Nabisco?
sorry.
Tabasco, Lay's, Fritos. I have no idea.
Yeah, well,
All right.
Who knows? Who cares? We'll talk
Move on-
about
move on to bike questions.
Consumer goods products on the next one.
speaking of bikes, Teflon tape on bottom bracket threads. Several of us put the question in the comments, as I had never heard of it before. Is this a secret anti-creak hack or a subtle way to troll the DIYers out there?
It's definitely not for trolling.
Yes.
You did it. What happened?
Liam did this on your threaded bottom bracket
yeah.
on the build reel that
Yeah,
I
that
posted,
Ranger build.
First-
and everybody was like, Teflon tape on the bottom bracket
Yeah,
threads.
I first started doing this. One of the first real shop I ever worked at. One of the guys that worked there has been working on bikes since the 70s, since threads and bottom brackets were not all created equal. And anytime there's creaking, it's like sometimes the bottom bracket would even like almost be loose in the frame on like those old square tapers. We Teflon tape it. So after that, I just kind of started Teflon taping almost every bottom bracket. They don't come loose, they don't creak. It's awesome. So you Teflon tape it. You have to wrap the tape in the correct direction so it essentially stays on as you tighten and it doesn't come off. And then more recently, I had my gravel bike was creaking a lot and I couldn't figure it out. So I Teflon taped my pedal threads and it made the creaking go away.
Really?
Yeah. I think just all that fine dust that we have around here just works its way in and creaks. So
Wow.
Yeah.
Go figure.
Little hack to make your bike creak less. People really
Cheap.
don't like creaking. I don't
No.
either.
I don't
Cheap
either.
hack.
I hate creaking.
Yeah. And the amount of time, the amount of hours, it would be great if we just had some sort of monthly tally of time spent by mountain bikers trying to make their bikes creak less. It would just be thousands of hours.
or like
every
chain
month, I think.
slap or
Yeah.
yeah.
Make
It is
bikes
annoying.
quieter.
Yeah.
Hashtag make bikes quieter. Make shirts that say that.
Should campaign on that.
Right?
Yeah.
That's good. I like that. Speaking of bikes being quieter, frame storage. Is it a trend or not? I think it's pretty cool. I haven't actually owned a bike yet that had frame
We're
storage.
talking about like in frame storage.
I'm
right?
assuming.
Yeah,
I'm assuming.
that's,
Yeah, like
yeah.
specialized.
All the
slot
new,
or-
new
all the new
Santa
Santa
Cruz,
Cruzes
yeah.
are coming with it. Treks are coming with it.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome. I mean, I don't think it's a trend. Specialized have been doing this. I had a swap box before I worked here, I think.
Yeah, ages ago. Yeah, I like the idea a lot. I mean, being able to take your ride essentials and it's just an empty airspace
Yeah,
anyway. Might as
it
well
is.
just tuck them in there. I like the idea of it being down by the bottom bracket so the weight is in the right place. But
Yeah.
instead of having as long as you can access it quickly,
Yeah.
being able to sort of, take your spare tube, CO2, tire plug, whatever, and put it in there and
You can put
tuck it away in
pizza,
your frame.
Yeah.
6-inch sub,
It's a lot of funny,
Jeez,
funny
burritos.
videos
Hot
of people putting
Cheetos.
food in theirs.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
your Cheez Its, your white cheddar
Right.
Cheez Its could go in there, Jared.
yeah, I think it's a great idea. I don't see any downside to it aside from the added cost and complication of integrating that into a frame mold. But I mean, that's like not that bad.
Not
I
much of
mean,
a cost at the end of the day. It's, if anything, it just has to make the frame a little bit heavier in certain spots. But
yeah.
bike's already so heavy anyways. No one cares about weight.
Yeah. It's just like that's
I
the
still care about weight.
only
Yeah,
downside I
you
can
still
see.
do, but bike companies don't.
Just
Yeah,
the added
that's true.
complexity of integrating that technology.
I think the
but,
little bit
I
of
mean,
design factors in too, because I was riding out actually our Pennsylvania shop camping trip where we went and rode. Where did we ride? I've forgotten the name of the place. That's not good. Some forest in Pennsylvania. It wasn't Michaud. I rode Michaud the week after. We rode some other place. I'm blanking on the name, but one of the who was it? It was Rebecca's husband. He came and he had a trek and he was riding with us. And one of the days he got to the bottom of the trail and his water bottle was gone. And the water bottle cage was gone because the water bottle cage and the water bottle were all attached to the door for the frame storage on his trek. And it had vanished.
The door was gone too?
Yeah, the whole thing was gone. And it just fell off while he was riding. It's super rocky, rough trail, and it just fell off when he was riding. And as soon as he noticed, we were like, oh shit, man, you what happened? He's like, oh, the whole thing's gone. And then another one of the guys who was riding behind him saw it on the trail and picked it up and brought it to the bottom. So
lucky guy.
He didn't lose it, but it is kind of an important thing because if that entire storage door falls off while you're riding, all your stuff can fall out and then the door's gone. And so
that's a whole deal.
Make sure it's designed well so it doesn't go falling off on rocky trails.
I know a lot of them have like a latch. Right.
Yeah, I think it was a latchy sort of thing that just
clips on the end of it.
Who knows if it was latched perfectly or if the latch has that problem in general. I don't know.
I thought there's a certain thing that was patented about that. I wonder if Specialized has a patent on how it's latched. And it could be like the best way to latch it right to left. Or however patents work, it's so vague the way it could be stated,
it's one of those things where the latch has to be designed correctly and then you as the user have to latch it correctly and make sure it doesn't come off. And whoever engineers it needs to make sure even if it is latched correctly, it can still withstand a whole bunch of vibration because that's what mountain bikes go through on rocky, rough trails.
True that.
So, true that. But I like the idea. I think it's cool. I hope it becomes more prevalent on various other brands. Because, the whole idea of strapping stuff to the bike, I don't know. It looks cleaner if it's
or
not
just
inside.
fitting it in random places, like inside your handlebars, or
or your
on
steer
a
tube,
strap,
or your
or
axle.
steer
There's like
tube.
all these different
let's
weird
just
little
put it
ways
inside this big tube that all bikes have.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Seems like a good idea to me.
Yep, it sure does.
Yeah.
This next question must come from a California guy or somebody who rides Mammoth Bike Park because he says, "Does Jeff hit the drop on Flow in Mammoth?" Flow is a trail in Mammoth that has a wooden drop, wood to wood.
Wood to wood.
It is wood to wood, right?
Yeah. I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it's wood to wood. Man, I've never not hit that drop. I hit that drop when they first built it when I was 13 years old.
I think all of us hit it blind this last time, but you know who wouldn't hit it? Zach Weaver.
Yeah. What bike was he riding?
The Forestall.
Oh, that's right. He definitely
Yeah,
hit
he had a
Definitely
170,
could've.
170 bike.
Yeah.
Past his prime, man. He won't hit that no more.
So if you want to, shoot Zach a message for not hitting a flow drop.
That's at Zach Weaver on Instagram and just let him know that, hey, I heard that you don't hit the drop on Flow and Mammoth.
I tried to peer pressure him a little, but
we
then
did try.
I
We
stopped.
tried. Yeah, we all did.
I
I'm
didn't
like,
wanna- I didn't
want
want to harp on him too bad.
it's only because we know that he can.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
that's why I was just.
but at
thought,
the same
dude, you can
time,
hit this
like,
fine.
I wouldn't want to crash on that.
Oh, horrible.
Oh yeah, that would be
a bad
on.
crash.
No, but I mean, it's an easy drop.
It is
But
like
it's
a
bike
drop,
park. It's
but-
so well built. I mean,
Yeah.
it might be. I guess if you hit it as slow as possible, it would be a
don't
6
pull
foot
up.
drop.
Yeah.
But usually hit a little bit faster, and it might end up being, I don't know,
7
10 feet,
or 8,
7
10?
feet. I don't know. It's
There's
got
a huge
long-
landing.
It's a huge long landing. It's super well built. It's as wide as a sidewalk.
Yep.
It's really not that big of a deal, but
It's fun.
it's one of those things that once you do once, you're like, oh, that was totally easy and not scary.
Yeah.
But it just looks intimidating.
Totally.
So I could see how people wouldn't want to hit it.
What's definitely scary is pre-hopping the A-line drop.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
sketch.
yeah.
I mean, I saw a video of like some guy doing that one time and just
Oh, clipping it.
I
Yeah.
wanted to do it so bad this last time, but I didn't have the balls to.
I don't blame you, man. There's no need for that.
You gotta keep it in your pants some days. That was on the edge of appropriateness. I apologize. Oh, the question I almost spoiled earlier.
Yeah.
Will any of you ever get another alloy bike? My answer is yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I'll say
actually
yeah.
really like high-end, well-made alloy bikes. I think
Yeah,
they're
me too.
sick.
That's what I was so stoked on Canfield
Yeah.
recently because they just look amazing.
Yeah.
Even Banshee too. Recently,
Yeah,
we're kind of
Banshees are
looking back at
cool.
Banshees again. We've been a Banshee dealer forever, but it's a tiny brand that doesn't have a lot of traction and following, so we don't sell very many of them.
Yep.
But I don't know.
I think-
I'm really impressed
I
with
think
what
what,
they're doing. Same with Canfield.
What Raw is doing, the bike brand Raw,
Yeah.
R-A-A-W.
Those are cool. Those are cool bikes.
Those are cool. Yeah, I'd love to get. I also think nicely made high-end alloy bikes can be the same weight as what current carbon bikes are.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, it's at some point carbon bikes people cared about making them lightweight, and now they don't. They just want to make them as durable as possible, and they just layer and layer and layer on carbon, and these things are the same weight as aluminum bikes. So that value proposition is gone. The whole idea of carbon bikes being lighter, at least in the trail enduro segment, it's still kind of relevant in cross country and road. Obviously,
Yeah, I've had plenty of alloy bikes even when they had the same model in carbon. Transition, Mondraker.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I had a transition that was an alloy
that was
when they had a carbon
too.
one. Yeah, I really like that. I actually think I'm going to build up a Canfield.
Yeah.
Wow.
I need a new trail bike. I've had that rascal for a solid 8 months. Time to...
It was used too. Gosh, can you believe it? Jeff riding
trips.
it used
I've
bike.
taken that on 2 trips. Yeah.
Maybe 3.
That was my second rascal. I really like that bike, but I just feel like that it would just be rad to build up a Canfield.
That Canfield with the carbon bird wheels.
Oh, yeah. I'll build up an alloy Canfield with carbon bird wheels.
That'd be hilarious.
Yeah.
You know what alloy bike I really want is one of Nico's old frames. I feel like I would love to have that as a downhill
Oh, dude,
bike.
he was going to send us one.
Yeah, but I want one forever, not like just for a week or 2.
Ask him, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I will. But I feel like for a downhill bike, I mean, it's gonna have little innovation. I feel like, and you're gonna be able to ride that thing like it's just gonna be bulletproof, and you'll have it forever.
That's true.
That's kind of
what Nico's doing is so cool. By the way, check that out. Just type in Nico frameworks into Google, or you can go to worldwidecyclery.com/Nico.
That's right.
N-E-K-O.
N-E-K-O.
Yeah.
We can search Nico on the Worldwide Cyclery website.
Yeah, that's true. You can also
and it'll bring
go
up
there and
Nico's,
type in N-E-K-O.
Nico's page.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, check out what he's doing. It's cool. He's custom making his own bikes and racing them on a World Cup level, which is rad. So definitely worth looking into.
Yeah.
Now.
Wow. This is a hard question.
It's a hard question, man.
Really
what
hard.
do you love most about your job? Do you think the guy who asked this loves his job or hates his job?
I bet you he doesn't.
Or maybe just genuinely curious.
And he wants to know what we love most and see how his job stacks up. Yeah. I guess I'll go first. What do I love most about my job? Probably being around cool bikes all day. And not only that, but the people at Worldwide are just amazing. And, you hear a lot, like a lot of other workplaces, but like that's like a family, but it really does feel like that here. And we all just are super into bikes and like, we just all get along. So like, that's probably one of the things I love most about working here.
Yeah. Culture and community.
Community,
workplace
and
relationships.
Bikes. Yeah, workplace relationships and bikes. Obviously, like you get to be around cool bikes and riding bikes with your coworkers. Like, just you don't have to do that kind of thing, obviously, but it's like wanting to go and like spend time outside of work with your coworkers and like do that kind of stuff is really fun.
Yep. What do you think, Willie?
I mean, I agree with all those points. It's definitely a big part of it. I think for me, it's like what I would choose to, like if I could do something. We were talking about this on one of our trips. If I was independently wealthy, I'd still do the same thing, just maybe slightly less of it.
Yeah.
But like my tasks would be the same. What I do would be the same. Find these cool brands and market them and pretty much what I do. I would just do maybe a little less if I didn't need the money, but it's exactly what I'd want to do. So I think that's what I love most about it is like I'm stoked to do it, and I don't care when I'm doing it or where I'm doing it. Especially this summer, I've kind of just been doing it all. So
just been doing it to do it.
Just been doing it to do it, man.
Just been doing it. Jeff?
My answer would be I got a lot of answers because I love a lot of things, but I think at the end of the day, for me, it's just overall the people in the industry. So that's, the people we have that work for Worldwide and the people who ride mountain bikes. It's a good, fun scene. It's a product that people love to use as a tool to have fun with. And people who ride mountain bikes, in my experience, 99.9% of the time are just good, cool, fun-having, nice people. And, getting to support people having fun on bikes is a really good feeling. And being in an industry that is just laid back and fun and, just does fun stuff and has products that are fun and we sell that, and that's cool. I like that. That just makes me feel like we're doing a good thing for the world, supporting people having fun.
Yeah,
The world needs that.
Well said.
Nobody has to ride a bike; they choose to.
That's right.
So nobody has to come buy from us; they choose to.
Yep.
And it's cool that people choose to do that.
Yeah, because it is a good, fun sport in that sense.
Yeah.
Speaking of people who like to have fun on their bike, this next question is: how stupid of a question do I need to ask in order to have it answered on the podcast?
I think
Stupid
Jared's
enough
dying laughing
because
over
this question was stupid enough that it made it on the podcast.
Good job, Colin.
I think he sends some stupid question every time. Colin also semi works for us.
Yeah, we should probably disclose when these people are friends /
Yeah.
employees, because we wouldn't give you a hard time if you're just a nice bystander, casual civilian. We wouldn't give you a hard time, but
Yeah.
if we're your friend, we might give you a hard time.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
Colin,
there you go.
We
Thanks,
love you.
Colin. We
Thanks,
appreciate
Colin.
we appreciate your question, and
And your humor.
yeah,
And hopefully you listen to this episode so you can actually hear your question
nobody
be
tell
answered.
him.
Yeah, no one tell him.
Yeah.
Nobody tell him.
All right, we
and if
won't.
he doesn't say anything, we'll give it 3 months and then tell him. Set a reminder for that.
That's too long. 3 weeks.
And I hope you guys DM Zach about his flow job.
Yeah,
because he's gonna
please.
get frustrated.
yeah.
He's gonna get mad
In a good way.
quick.
Don't make fun of him, but just
But just a little
Like,
bit.
yo,
Just
I
a
heard
little poke.
you didn't hit the drop on
Yeah.
flow.
poke the bear a little, you know?
For the last 2 years.
at
Say that.
ZACKWEAVER. Zach Weaver.
Zach Weaver. That's
his
ZACK
Instagram.
with a K, not an H.
Yeah, he gets
But
real
you
offended.
should
if you call
DM
Zach
him
Fish.
and use the H.
Funny. Yeah, he could his Instagram name is literally ZACK, and then just message him and say ZACH. Say ZACH, comma, I heard you wouldn't hit the drop on flow. Man, if he just gets a dozen of those messages, he will lose it. He will for sure come into work and go, "What did you guys do on the podcast? What happened? Why are people DMing me this?"
Oh my god. Amazing.
That is good.
All right.
Perfect.
Well,
That was our last one.
that's all we got for you. Thank you very much for listening to episode 98 of the MTB Podcast. Please hit us with any questions, comments, and concerns at podcast@worldwidecyclery.com or on Instagram. You can message Jared Bierman directly because he looks at the Instagram messages. If you're listening this far, they deserve
Yeah, they deserve it.
They deserve it. We like them. Thank you and good night, San Diego.
Good night and good luck.
Love ya.